Welcome back to the next video in the Diaphragm Elk Call video series here at the Elk 101 YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, be sure and hit the subscribe button down below and click the notification bell to make sure you're getting notified every time a new video is released. Today, in the last video here in the Diaphragm Elk Call series, I'm going to teach you how to chuckle. Chuckling is probably the hardest call to make with the Diaphragm Elk Call. It's not all that important for calling an elk, but it's the number one way that I use to determine whether the sound I'm hearing is an elk or another hunter. Hunters struggle with chuckling. So I'm going to teach you today a very simple way that you can learn to master chuckling using a Diaphragm Elk Call. Be sure that you've watched video number 1 on basic use of Diaphragm Elk Calls, just the learning to master a Diaphragm Elk Call. I talk about 3 fundamentals that are going to be vital in helping you learn how to chuckle. What we're going to do is talk about the mechanics of the chuckle today. And if you've watched the previous videos on making cow sounds with the Diaphragm Elk Call or learning to bugle with the Diaphragm Elk Call, you'll know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the mechanics of the sound. It's just the outline, the sound chart that the sound takes. For a cow call, it starts high and drops off. For a bugle, it starts low, goes to the high note, and then drops off. For a chuckle, those mechanics are exactly the same as a bugle. So when you break a chuckle down into its very simplest form, the skeleton of a chuckle, all it's doing is starting at a low note, going to a high note, coming back down to a low note. Exactly the same as a bugle. So that's light tongue pressure, increased tongue pressure, dropping off tongue pressure. So I'm going to give you just the mechanics of a bugle and show you how that translates into a chuckle. So you can see it's exactly like a bugle. It starts low, goes up, hits the high note, and drops off rapidly. As I get into it and get a little bit more of a faster cadence for that, I'm going to drop the couple bottom notes there and start off a little bit higher on the staircase, going up to the high note and abruptly off. Again, I'm dropping my jaw to drop my tongue away from the latex really rapidly. The only other thing you need to add in there is a little bit of voice and then an exaggerated inhale in between each of those sounds. So right in between going up the scale and dropping off, just exaggerate a deep breath in, a deep inhalation of air. And that's all there is to chuckling. Again, it's so important that you practice those mechanics slowly to really get the pattern of the sound down before you put the cadence together and try to speed it up. If you put a diaphragm in first time and try to chuckle, there's a good chance on that inhalation of air, you're going to swallow the diaphragm. So make sure you're practicing those mechanics before you swallow a diaphragm. Getting that exaggeration in that inhalation. From there, just add a little bit of voice, like at the beginning of a bugle, a little growl, come off with a loud, kind of an exasperated, and then a big inhalation. Add it to the bugle tube. And that's all there is to chuckling. Let me start with the big exaggeration of those mechanics and then slowly speed them up, getting into the full chuckle. Again, using your tongue and your tongue pressure to just slightly change the different sounds within the chuckle. Again, here's what a chuckle will sound like so you can practice using this once you get those mechanics down. Practice those mechanics slowly at first, adding that inhalation, the exaggerated inhalation of air in between, and then simply speed it up to hit that faster cadence that a chuckle has. To learn more about diaphragm elk calls and using elk calls, especially the tactics and the sequences we use to call in elk, make sure you've checked out the University of Elk Hunting online course at elk101.com. And feel free to use the promo code YouTube to save $10 when you sign up for the online course. And make sure you've subscribed to the Elk 101 YouTube channel and click that notification bell to make sure you know when the next video from Elk 101 shows up here on YouTube. The success rate for do-it-yourself public land elk hunters hovers around 10%. The reality of that statement is that 9 out of 10 elk hunters each fall fail to fill their tag, or the average elk hunter only fills their elk tag once every 10 years. But average no longer applies to you. Crush the averages and sign up for the University of Elk Hunting online course today and become a consistently successful elk hunter.